and she'll introduce herself a little bit more here too.
All right. Well, hi everyone.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me. This is my first time up to Baylor, first time to Waco. You guys have an awesome campus. Rachel just showed me around. So I'm going to talk to you today about staying healthy in college and what I used to kind of piece out what I wanted to include in the lecture. I just asked a whole bunch of my patients that are in their 30s and 40s and a whole bunch of my friends if you could go back in time and talk to your 20-something-year-old self and give yourself advice, what you would have done differently so that you're a healthier 30 and 40-year-old. What are some of those things? So those things are all included. So I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. I've been in clinical practice for 10 years now. And in the last couple of years, I was hired on and worked as a professor on and off for the Graduate School of Integrative Medicine in Austin. So that's a natural medicine school, and I teach the master's degree students some of their clinical classes. So anyways, my first advice just generally about life is, I always had a dream that I would be some kind of natural medicine doctor. Even when I was little, I had some kind of a fantasy about that, and I really always pursued that, and I never thought about how much money I might make or focused on that, and that was a good move. I'm so glad I did, because even 10 years into my practice, I still love my job so much, and I'm still excited to go to work every day. And feedback I get from my patients often is that they can tell that I really am happy doing it, that I want to be there. And a lot of times from my patients, I see people in their 30s and 40s that took the highest paying job that they could find, maybe in a city they didn't want to live in, and it put their life into kind of a trajectory that wasn't really what their heart wanted, and they had health consequences as a result of that. The stress of their job feels more stressful because they're unhappy for 8 hours a day. So whatever job you choose, it's sort of like a marriage. You're sort of, spending a lot of time together and investing a lot of yourself. So I really believe it should be driven by passion, like what you really believe in and what you really love and want to do. So anyways, just wanted to share that. And thought it started off with my favorite quote. It's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. "We are all inventors, each sailing out on a voyage of discovery, guided each by a private chart of which there is no duplicate. The world is all gates, all opportunities." And the thing I like about that quote is it's really saying we're all authoring our life story. We can't always control what happens to us and our circumstances, but we control how we look at it and the story we tell about it. And so we want it to be a story we're happy to tell and proud to tell and feel good about telling. And in that sense, the world really is all gates and all opportunities. And when you're using the natural talents, we all have something to offer when we're using that and in a way that we believe in and are passionate about. And we love it, all kinds of doors and opportunities open up. And so that's really what I found in my career. And also in regard to your health, we are authoring how healthy our body is going to be in the next decade by what we're eating now, how much we're resting now, how positive our outlook is now. Those things all weigh into the future. And so we're authoring it right now. So it should be a good story we're happy to tell. Okay. So this is going to seem like the most basic thing in the world. This 5 rules of health comes from a practitioner I met when I was really young that I really admired. He had a really great practice, and he helped a lot of people with complicated health conditions that they weren't getting help with elsewhere. And he would tell them all these 5 things. Make sure you have these 5 things every single day. And so, not to be the master of the obvious, of course you have to have good sleep and healthy diet and so forth. But all great truths are simple, and so we can't forget these basic things that all human beings, that all life needs. So I'm going to go through each one of them a little deeper. So number 1, rest. Are you well rested? It's so hard, right? How many people in here feel a deep sense of rest and they're getting enough sleep and it's good sleep? Nobody? Kind of. It's a big problem. I think we live in the most stress-provoking society possible. And we have not only the obvious stress of financial stress, you guys have academic stress, and there's relationship stress, but we also have this new stress, electromagnetic field stress, that we're not even able to see, but it's occurring subconsciously and at a level that we can't perceive, causing us to be more sped up inside and causing stress to all of our body's systems. So in regard to sleep, people in their 20s need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That doesn't mean in bed, but actually sleeping. So most people are deficient in sleep. One contributing factor, and this is coming from my personal experience in college. In college, I drank way too much coffee. I was always drinking coffee. I was getting 2 majors at UT, and I was in the Honor Society, and I had like 3 jobs, all of which I hated. And so I drink a lot of caffeine, stay awake, and study late. So this is important to know. Caffeine has this 5 to 6 hour half-life. So that means if you have a cup of coffee at 8 in the morning, half of it's gone at 2 p.m. It's not all out of your system until 8 p.m. So if you have coffee after 12 o'clock, you're for sure getting into your sleeping hours when you still have caffeine in your system revving you up and you're trying to shut yourself down. So just something that's good to know. I wish I knew that back then. I would have drank it at 5 o'clock when I got off work and then started to study. And then at 3 in the morning, it was like, oh my God, when will sleep happen for me? I won't fall asleep. Another thing is the home environment. Is it restful or stressful? When you open the door to the place you live, do you get a feeling of peace and of calm? Is it inviting? Is it a sanctuary? Or is it a place that's kind of stressful? Is there a lot of clutter? Is there a lot of mess and things to do? Is there too much busyness? Because that's something that has a subconscious impact on you all the time when you're in that environment. And like when people come to me as a patient for anxiety, that's some of the first homework I have them do is clear all the clutter out of their space and clear anything negative out of the space. Like, let's say you're going through your closet and there's a shirt and it's a perfectly good shirt and it's in good shape, but when you see it, you associate it with a negative memory of maybe something that happened when you were wearing that shirt. You need to get rid of that shirt because it's become something negative. So clear your space of anything that doesn't feel good, pictures, clothes, whatever. First, clear everything. Same thing for the study environment. Your desk should be kind of clear, the environment should be kind of peaceful, so you don't have all of that subconscious stress of kind of an overwhelming environment coming in. The same thing with relationships. A lot of times, people either give us energy or they sort of take it away when we have an encounter with someone, right? And there's some people, every time we see them, you just feel that bubbling up of joy, like it's a good friend or someone, a safe person, someone really loves you, and so you get filled up with energy. But the opposite is true too. If people you feel a judgment from, or negativity, or critique, or there's some baggage there, so that's another thing we can clear out of our life as much as possible, or toxic relationships, wherever they might be. And that will take a lot of stress out of life. This looks exactly like one of my patients. I just had to put it in there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about stress because it shouldn't be underestimated how dramatically it can affect your physical health. It absolutely does in so many ways. Look at that picture. You don't want your work environment or your desk environment to look like that. There is something to feng shui about clearing the clutter out of a space and making it a peaceful place. Like when I just look at that picture, I'm like, oh, I just want to clear it all off. So here's a little bit about what chronic stress will do to the body. It creates a state of chronic inflammation where the whole body is under distress all the time. Our stress hormones like adrenaline, norepinephrine, and epinephrine are all there for this fight, flight, quick burst of energy, running from a tiger chasing you. But it should not be like you wake up in the morning like, and then all day long you're stressed out and drinking coffee and worrying and stressing, and then at some point you collapse sadly in bed and then have to do it all again. Our bodies are just not equipped to deal with that. So over time we become chronically inflamed. A lot of people feel it first really in their gut. Leaky gut syndrome can develop from this because that chronic state of inflammation, it will change your bacteria in your gut. It will kill off the good bacteria, and it becomes a better environment for the bad. So you end up having this permeability in the intestines where molecules that should not pass through the intestines into the blood, like gluten, for example, are then able to do that. So you have toxins that should be coming out and being eliminated from the body then in your bloodstream, and that causes you to be inflamed inside. And also you'll absorb less nutrients. So you could be eating this really healthy, organic, fresh diet, but then not really absorbing much of it. It could be leaking out into your bloodstream. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger problem in our culture. I see all the time in my practice. When you're under chronic stress, you're releasing a lot of cortisol. That causes you to store fat, especially in the belly, so it can lead to weight gain. And also, it suppresses your immune system, which is horrible. That means, when flu season comes around, you're more likely to get it, or, even not pathogen kind of things, but allergic reactions, like to the environment, to dust, pollen. You can develop allergies. So when your immune system is suppressed and weak, even just because of stress, whatever's going around you can get, and then you find you always have the sniffles, and there's kind of always something weighing you down. So it's better to do less and be really healthy, because when you get sick, then you're taken out for a week, or you're not performing at your full ability. And these problems that it causes in the body, they get worse over time. When I see patients in their 40s, that if they have leaky gut syndrome, it's full blown, and they always are fatigued, and they always have muscle aches everywhere that don't make sense, that they can't massage out or get rid of, and they're always tired. So it's better to resolve it now, finding ways to really deal with stress. So I like some of these Zen ideas, like doing one thing at a time, very slowly, very carefully. Like in the Japanese culture, they have a tea drinking ritual where it's always done a certain way, very slow, very careful, quiet, where you pay your full attention, you're fully present in that one thing that you're doing. And then doing that thing completely. I have a quote I like about that. If you don't have time to do it right the first time, when are you going to find time to do it over? So I was at a lecture, and the lecturer used this quote, and it just burned me, because I was going through the doctorate program, and I have 2 kids, and I have a business, and I have a house, and a website to maintain, and I have a million things going on, like everybody. And I realized, gosh, since the doctorate program came into my life with all these papers and presentations and all this demand and financial and all of that, I was doing a lot of things halfway and rushing, and 2 and 3 things at a time. And really, that's miserable. But when I read this, I was like, yeah, I'm having to do several things over, because the first time I did it, I just did it so rushed. It's better to prioritize what can you do completely, fully, with your full attention at a time. What I wanted to comment on, number 10, make cleaning and cooking become a meditation. That was some really good advice I got from a really spiritual woman a long time ago. I think I was lamenting about getting into a rut in motherhood, where it was an endless laundry and endless dishes and endless, all these things. And she said, you need to make, she's like, what's the chore you hate the most? I said, washing the dishes. And she said, you need to make that your most spiritual time of the day. And I was like, well, how do you do that? And she said, make it become a meditation. Really, find a soap you like the smell, and make the water the perfect temperature, and really pay attention and appreciate the way that appreciate that you even have running water, for starters, and that you have plates to wash because you have food. It's a good place to start with that gratitude. But then find a way to enjoy the process, and then find something to really focus on while you're doing it. And so that's a good time to kind of count your blessings, as they say. So when I remember to do that, it changes from being a chore to something that really feeds me and fulfills me and kind of redirects me in a positive way. So in regard to gratitude, focusing on what is working in life is really the antidote. Stress is sort of acknowledging all the chaos, what isn't working, what feels out of control. But if we sort of zoom out and we look at what is working in life, do you have a million demands, but you have a best friend that's really supportive, or do you love your room, or we can all find all kinds of things that are working, that are really positive. And so it's good to do a meditation where you just pick one, maybe the first one that comes to your mind, and really sit with that for a minute and think about how valuable that one thing that is working is to you, and what it gives to your life. And then imagine if you didn't have that, what would your life be like? And that's when it really kind of hits home, wow, that's really significant for me. So in moments of stress, I find it really helpful to go somewhere in nature, sit down, and really think about what is working for me in my life, what's going well. So that was number 1. That's all about rest and stress. Number 2 is diet. So I'm going to start with dehydration, because I find my patients are dehydrated all the time. People don't know how much water to drink and what is hydrating, what's dehydrating. So we've all been told to drink 8 glasses of water a day. It's the standard, that's what a human needs. But we're all different sizes, and we have all different kinds of fluid metabolism, so that's sort of an average, but that's not right for each of us. More accurate, I think, is to take your body weight, let's say you weigh 100 pounds, and divide it by 2, and that's how many ounces of water you need a day. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you need 50 ounces a day. Every cup of coffee or caffeine beverage will take a cup away because it's a diuretic, so you need to replace that. And then if you've been out sweating and working out, you have to replace that on top of the half of your body weight. Okay, fresh foods. Most people in our culture just don't have enough fresh, raw foods, and that's where we get enzymes. Enzymes are what helps us to digest food. So if we're eating only cooked food or processed food, we don't really have any restorative food coming in. It's really important to eat a lot of fresh foods. I always think of it as greens and a protein. Like if I eat out like a salad with some kind of a protein, it's a good rule of thumb. It's also really important to have good fats. A lot of the fad diets that have come out recently have really bashed that and told people if they want to lose weight, they need less fat because fat makes you fat. That's not true. Actually, fat actually holds down your blood sugar. It prevents sugar cravings, keeps you full for longer. And if they're healthy fats, like the best ones are coconut oil, grass-fed butter, avocado. Some people reserve bacon fat when they make bacon and use that to cook things. That's a good saturated fat that is actually very vitamin-rich. So the healthy whole food fats are actually really good for you and good for keeping weight off. Probably the biggest problem I see in people's diet is they have too many grain-based carbs, like cake. No, but like cereal in the morning or oatmeal, and then there's like a sandwich at lunch, and then dinner might have a grain like rice or whatever it is. All of those grain-based carbs break down into sugars. And so to get the energy into the cells, the glucose into the cells, you need to secrete insulin. And after a while, when you're calling upon the body or the pancreas to release too much insulin, it starts to get exhausted. Then you start to have blood sugar problems, which looks like fatigue, brain fog, bloating, things like that. And then it can progress to get worse and worse and eventually become prediabetes and then full-blown diabetes. So right now in our culture, 4 out of 5 people over the age of 50 have at least prediabetes. So blood sugar is a huge problem in our culture. So we have to do everything we can to reduce all sugars and grain-based carbs. Really, there isn't a real need in the diet for them. We can really do without them. And eventually they lead to weight gain and fatigue and all these kinds of problems. It's always good to take a multivitamin. I really recommend a food-based one because you'll be able to absorb it completely because the body's made to digest food and not chemicals in a lab, which is what synthetic vitamins are made out of. So there's a big absorbing problem when it comes to like Centrum or these typical brands, over-the-counter multivitamins. So I really recommend one that's made of superfoods. It'll come with all kinds of other benefits to the body besides just getting 100% of the nutrients that are recommended. Okay, things to avoid in a diet. So when you read a label and there's chemicals on it, you don't know what the word means, just don't eat it. It's probably not good for you. If you don't recognize it, your body probably won't recognize it either. Avoid eating out too much because restaurants, unless they're advertising it's organic, they're using the cheapest ingredients that they can find. And there's a lot of trans fats and undigestible things the way that restaurants prepare foods, typically. Commercial milk, it's because it's highly pasteurized, which means that all of the vitamins have been boiled off and they're now dead and not accessible to a human. It also comes with a lot of other problems. Commercial milk, they really over milk the cows, and the cows become very sick. They feed them a diet that's not natural for them. They feed them a grain-based diet, and they should have a grass pasture diet. So on average, every gallon of cow's milk that's not organic, the commercial one, has a tablespoon of blood and pus because the cows are so sick and they're so over-milked. So I recommend taking that out of the diet. Natural flavors. what is natural flavors? Like when you read it on a label and it's like, oh, there's natural flavors. Like, you know, you might think it's like cinnamon or vanilla or some other natural thing. That's not what it is, where they would say vanilla or cinnamon. What it is some chemical that they don't want to talk about, and so they say natural flavors. And a good example of that is MSG, monosodium glutamate, which will give you headaches, can cause pain in your body, causes all kinds of problems. That can be called natural flavors. So the manufacturers of these foods are definitely going to say natural flavors over being like, yeah, MSG is a flavor enhancer. Sorry about the migraines and the pain. You know? So if it says natural flavors, just avoid it. Diet products, usually it's a fake kind of a sugar, like sweet low, saccharin, sucralose, all of those. The problem with those is when your tongue tastes sweet, your brain is expecting sugar. So you start to secrete insulin as if it was a sugar. So because of that, when it's not used, eventually you store fat is the net result. And so that's why when they have these long studies of people who drank a regular Coke versus people that drank a Diet Coke, it's the Diet Coke group that actually gains the most weight and even becomes obese. And the other problem is it makes you crave even more sugar because your brain's anticipating sugar, you don't get any, and so then you keep craving it. And it can also stimulate your appetite. So it leads to weight gain, and also, you know, there's a lot of thought that it's linked to cancer as well. Bottled juices, it's kind of the same thing as the milk. When they pasteurize it and boil it, they boiled off all the vitamins. So maybe it used to be super nutritious, now it is like hummingbird food. It's sugar water with color. So fresh juice is awesome, it's great, and it's got tell you all kinds of great things, but the bottled juices don't have nutritional value anymore. They're really just sugar water, like when you buy orange juice at the store. And the soda thing, that's about sugar. So when you're reading a label and you see how many grams of sugar something has, don't ever have something more than 9 grams of sugar. That's more than you can metabolize at a time. If you're having it with something with a fat or a protein, that does help slow it down, so it's not a big punch in the face of sugar. But 9 grams is a good rule of thumb. And make sure it says just 1 serving, or if it says 2 servings at 9 grams, then it's 18. White flour, we talked about grain-based carbs, but white flour is just one step worse. That bleached flour, they bleach it because people think if it's white, it's more pure, but it's actually more processed and more stripped of what little good it had to start with. So white flour bread, white flour tortillas, it's just really toxic and draining on the body, and it doesn't really give you anything. And then soy. The soy we get here is, I think, 95% genetically modified, has a very high mold content, so very poor quality for starters. But most people just don't digest soy very well, and it's one of the most mucus-forming foods for that reason when we eat it. When you eat something, and do you ever notice if you eat something, sometimes you get a little bit of a runny nose right after? That's a mucus response. It means it's something that you can't digest, and so your body's making a wall of mucus to shield itself from what is in your body and you. And so that's happening from your nose and mouth all the way down your digestive tract. So watch out for that. If you get that little bit of sniffles or runny nose, then you know it's something that you're not able to digest. Exercise. That guy's pretty good looking, huh? That's my husband. He's a massive hiker. So exercise, obviously one of the best ways to deal with stress. One common mistake I see is people working out too hard